I'm Vicki Hogarth and welcome to Southwest Magazine. My guests today are Julie Atkinson, Executive Director for Sophia Recovery Centre in St. John, and Sheila Walker, Program Leader for the Charlotte County Outpost for Sophia House. Can you tell me a little bit about the history of Sophia Recovery Centre just to get started?
Sure, I'd love to. So Sophia Recovery Centre opened 13 years ago on Hazen Street in St. John as a drop-in center and a place where women could find peer support in their recovery from addictions, all different kinds of addictions. And it was started by a couple of sisters, Sister Arlene Brawley and Sister Mary Beth McCurdy, and they were really involved right from the start in getting the center up and running. And it grew from there 13 years ago. A funny story that is often told about that first day is that Sister Arlene and Sister Mary Beth were there on the first day when the center opened, and they were saying to each other, "Oh, I don't know if anyone will show up. Will anyone show up today?" And someone came short while into the morning, and she brought a loaf of banana bread, and she said it was with that banana bread we knew that we were going to connect with women. And so the center's grown in the last 13 years and offered different kinds of services and different kinds of programs, group programs, support and coaching with 12-step recovery, counseling, therapy, different types of programs, really trying to just meet the need for women who are looking to recover from their addictions and to live healthy and purposeful lives.
And why did you start opening a center in Charlotte County, and how is Sheila involved? How are you involved, Sheila?
Well, I'm a representative of Sophia Recovery Centre out in Charlotte County. So our vision, or Sophia's vision for Charlotte County, was to be able to have someone, a face, so that peer coaching, that one-on-one, which is private, it's confidential, that can start to be something that Sophia can offer here. Women don't have to travel into St. John to do that. There's always the virtual option as well, but there's something about connecting with another human being face to face and starting there. So I think this is my dream job. So I couldn't be happier that Sophia has placed a great value on recovery in Charlotte County, reaching women and bringing their programming through me into Charlotte County. Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the pandemic has put a spotlight on issues like addiction as well. Have you found that the demand is going up, or are you in Sophia House?
Yeah, that's been an interesting experience. And the experience of addiction and the experience of recovery is different for every woman. And so one of the things we say often in the center is expect the unexpected. But we know that that isolation is a high risk factor for addiction. And so especially at the beginning of the pandemic, when people were staying home all the time to keep themselves and each other safe, that was a hard time for people who were experiencing addiction or who were early in their recovery. It presented a lot of challenges. And so we did hear stories like that from women. And something else we're trying to be very aware of is the fact that many times people who have harmful drinking or substance use behaviors, it will take some time for them to realize that they are headed in a really dangerous and a difficult direction, and that without help, they won't be able to stop that path. And so we're still sort of feeling like we need to be equipped for the women who are still in a downward spiral because of the isolation and the extra challenges that the pandemic has brought to life, and be ready to meet them when they do reach out for help. Other people, though, other women have talked about how the fact that restaurants and bars are closed and they're staying home. For some women, that's been helpful. I mean, that's been, removed some of the situations that they would struggle with. So it's been very different for different women, but we certainly have had lots of phone calls and lots of inquiries and lots of people looking for help. And and realize the necessity of making sure we continue to provide the support no matter what, and that's been a turn to using the telephone and using virtual program delivery so that women can still reach out and speak to a person and get the support in the moment when they need it.
Why do you both think it's so important to have a center that is specifically for women?
Do you want me to answer that? Or?
Well, I think both of us could share a really interesting perspective, but you go ahead.
Yeah, well, I know when Sophia was founded, it was really important to the people that founded it that there would be a safe space for women where they would feel like it was okay and it was safe to be vulnerable, because really dealing with your addiction and recovery is all about being open and authentic and honest about the challenges that you are facing in your life, and being able to share those stories with a real sense of trust for the other people in the room. And so that was the goal in having a women-only center, that there would be that sense of safety and trust, and just the notion that women are very well equipped to help other women, and to hear each other's stories and have those stories be very relatable, and to really make that connection in a safe space, and be able to lean on the next woman next to you because her story there's something about her story that you can totally connect with.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about women needing to connect with other women on a level that you would never connect on if there were men in the room. Addiction is it's a disease of the feelings, and one of the most prevalent feelings is shame. And shame kills women. It isolates them. It keeps them alone. Shame is secrets. We keep secrets. So the last year in this pandemic, two things kind of happened. I watched women be isolated and yet virtually reach out and really get involved because it was the only way they could. And then I watched other women crawl away, and I've watched other women who would drink socially are drinking every day, because it's the fun thing, or the solution is that solution is now turned into a problem of isolation and shame. And Charlotte County is a small town and a small place. So many people know people. So that's why this is such a blessing for Charlotte County, for women to be able to have that anonymity, that privacy, the confidentiality, so that we can deal with shame. Mm-hmm. And that shame, I think, is one woman in recovery relating to another woman and sharing their stories and connecting is the magic. Mm-hmm. And that's how women recover. And so that level of connection, that intimacy between two women, into me you see, really happens when it's just one-on-one or in a small group of women.
Do you think there's more stigma surrounding women in addiction than addiction for men, for instance?
I think the research suggests that there certainly is, that gender stereotypes work against women in seeking help for their addiction, because we just have ways of talking about drinking and substance use that make it okay for men in a way that it is not okay for women. So it is a challenge for women to be able to stand up in the face of that and say, no, I do need help.
Are you seeing that change in a positive way somewhat?
We hope so. I mean, we hope that, with more awareness around the way that gender impacts, gender roles impact how people interact with healthcare and other community organizations, we hope that there's more openness and just bringing the conversation out into the open and addressing it in a really open way, we hope will gradually change. And I know that there's various levels of support for that type of work going on at various levels of government as well. So it takes time for cultural change, but certainly Sophia wants to be part of that movement.
Can you talk to me, Sheila, a little bit about the Charlotte County satellite of Sophia Recovery Centre? How does it work in relation to the work you do in St. John?
Well, it's really interesting because I work remotely. And at this time, we don't have an actual satellite office for Sophia. What is our satellite office is my computer, my telephone, myself, and a wonderfully reliable vehicle that can get me pretty much anywhere I need to go. So what we're shooting for is taking the pandemic into the mix here. Right now, our vision for me is making one-on-one connections with women. And there's a great online group that meets on Thursdays here. And so to build upon that, to the women that are coming to me now, that would just request one-on-ones, I'm hoping that they will join our community, and that we would be able to find a space for small gatherings where we can have hybrid meetings, and bring the programming of Sophia, whether it's CBT, the breathing workshop with Shauna. There's all kinds of great programming that goes on, and we could do that hybrid. So looking for a space, and we've had people offer us spaces, and we're just taking that pandemic one step at a time. And once vaccinations are out and public health is ready for small groups of people to gather, then in safety, then that's what we're really looking forward to doing. So that's sort of my role in Charlotte County, is to bring Sophia here, the programming here, and at this time it's really more one-on-one peer coaching. And
we're trying to take baby steps, I would say, but we are really eager to grow the program. We know that the need is here, and our satellite program that's been running here for over a year, the volunteers and the individuals that are involved with that group speak to the great need and of the other women that they are aware of that would be really appreciative of greater support being offered. And so right now we're running, Sheila's work is kind of a pilot project for us to try and do a lot of outreach and see what the need is like, and what kinds of programmings would serve women well in this area. And our hope is that we expand on that, and that we can secure funding to keep it going long term, and add programs as the need becomes apparent, and as we build community, because that's a big goal of everything that we do, is that we do 12-step coaching, and we do these one-on-one meetings, but our goal is that women in recovery meet each other, and they become a source of support for each other. And that's building community, and that helps challenge some of that shame and stigma as well. So that's the goal. We have to we're taking baby steps and doing it one step at a time.
Yeah. Connect, community, the collective.
So if a woman in Charlotte County was interested in either going to the group meeting or getting in touch with you, Sheila, what would be the best way to do that?
Oh, telephone. Okay. You can call, text, or send an email. But my Sophia number is 469-1058. Don't worry. Just make that phone call.
Yeah.
And
I often say too, if it feels more comfortable to bring a friend or a family member who's a supportive person to you, we have people come to the center in St. John all the time, along with a friend or a mother or a sister or an aunt. It's hard to do something by yourself for the first time. We appreciate that that's really intimidating and can be scary. Most people, when they walk through the doors, say, "Oh, this place is so warm and welcoming. I'm so glad that I came."
Yeah.
But it's hard to stand outside for the first time, and we totally respect that. So whatever way feels safest for you to reach out in the first instance is the way you should reach out in the first instance. And I know once you meet Sheila, you're going to make a connection and just feel so safe in her hands and with her extension of friendship. So,
well, the small amount of time that I've been with Sophia, it's been amazing, the response from Charlotte County, and that I'm working with women, and it's happening, and we're connecting. And it's just really pretty miraculous.
Can you speak a little bit about the group meetings? How would it differ from maybe someone's idea of what a typical AA meeting is?
Well, the women's meeting in St. Andrews is a hybrid meeting, and right now it's just a virtual meeting. We get on Zoom. It starts at 5:30, and we do a really nice sort of a half-hour check-in. So each woman gets to share a little bit about how her last week has been, what her highlights have been, what struggles she's had, and so she can sort of put that out to the group for support. And she has the floor. We go around in a circle. Everyone gets to share, and it's such a warm group. It is actually like walking in the doors of Sophia, and that feeling of warmth, welcoming. People understand you. They get you. The first time I zoomed in on that meeting, I felt like I belonged there, and I'd always been there. So. And then we read out of The Woman's Way through the 12 steps. That's the literature that is the basis of that meeting. And that's a little bit different than AA. It's based still on the 12 steps, but it is the vernacular and the language and the essence of the program is very female and very woman orientated. And so these women really relate to this literature. They relate to one another, and the most wonderful thing about it is they are the supports for each other. So, and 2 volunteers from Sophia 2 years ago came here and winged it. And they have built something amazing, and Sophia is going to take a more active role in that, in facilitating those meetings, and so that those women can come, be a part of, support the other women in that meeting. But it's a wonderful, warm, welcoming place. It's not that intimidating to just show up and click on. And if you're really not comfortable, you can just leave your screen off and listen in. But yeah, it's really pretty magical what happens in that meeting.
Does that literature speak to sometimes in recovery, women might have more issues at play that might be a more female perspective of recovery? Does the literature in The Woman's Way speak more to the woman's experience of recovery and addiction?
Yes, it does. Yeah, it really speaks to our personal relationships, whether that's as a girlfriend, as a sister, as a mother. It speaks to our relationship with the world as being nurturers, as being feminine. So
another program we're hoping, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No.
Another program that we're hoping will maybe be the next program that we launch in Charlotte County is a program called Beyond Trauma. And it's a trauma-informed and very gender-sensitive walk through learning about how trauma may have impacted women's experience and on developing coping skills and strategies. So that's a program that is internationally delivered in many different locations, and one that we've offered at the center in St. John in the past. So we're hoping we can bring that one to Charlotte County soon, and that does allow women to deal with some of their broader issues that intersect with their recovery for sure.
Yeah.
But that help them get to that place of a healthier, happier life and relationships.
Well, in those women's stories, a lot of them have volatile relationships, abusive relationships. So, that is something that can be spoken to with these programs. Outside of the 12 steps, exactly. A wellness program.
It builds on all of the good things that are in the 12 steps. takes it a step farther and lets people dig into some of their issues, their personal histories.
And perhaps issues maybe like eating disorders that could be at play at the same time. That
women's body issues. There you go.
Yeah.
For anyone who might be worried about the aspect of anonymity, how does that factor in?
Well, anonymity is a founding principle of Sophia Recovery Centre. So women come to the center there, or they connect with Sheila here in Charlotte County, and their information is never shared with anyone else. So we totally respect people's need for privacy. And that's an understanding that all of the women who visit the center would come to, that things that are shared in a group setting are totally private to that group. And we've always had a great level of respect for that from all of the women that we work with, which is really wonderful. So it's that's part of what makes it a safe place to talk about some of these things that are hard to talk about and hard to share with others.
Sophia Recovery Centre is an anomaly in some ways in Canada. It's one of just a few centers for women. Can you speak to that and why it's so special and important, and how fortunate we are to have it in New Brunswick?
Yeah, well, what I think is wonderful about Sophia is that a lot of addiction treatment programs are based on a residential model. So a person checks themselves in, they stay there for whatever period of time, and then they go back home. And we think about addiction a little bit differently at Sophia, and we understand that it is more like a chronic condition that needs longer term support. Now, that doesn't mean everyone needs the same intensity of treatment or programs or engagement always, but it's a support system that's always there for women. So they can come and go as they need the support, and they can interact minimally, or they can be there every day. It depends on where you find yourself in your recovery journey and how big your struggles are week to week, month to month, year to year. And so that does make it unique, because when we meet a new woman and we engage with her and understand her story, there's not a period of time when we're finished with that woman. She can continue to participate in our programs and stay in touch with our staff and our volunteers and with the women she meets at the center forever if she needs it. And we're happy to be that lifelong form of support for those women. And so, yeah, we're definitely different from a medical model, which isn't to say we don't very highly recommend that women use the medical treatments that are available to them within the system. But we're there for those women, for all of the gaps in that system, for before the system, for after the system, for whatever they need.
People often think of recovery centers as a place you go in crisis, but can you speak to the idea of just maintenance and people doing well in recovery but continuing on the journey with you?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about maintenance? You know, the days that I've got to spend at the center are every day's different. Every day's different. You never know who's going to walk in the door, but there are a few people that you know they're going to walk in the door every day, because Sophia has become a part of their daily routine. So to see these women on the daily, they have now made Sophia that connection. It's their safe place. It's the one place that they can go during the day where they connect with other women. They can have a tea, they can have a coffee, they can do a stretch, they can do some breathing, and then they can move on with the rest of their day. So there is times where women show up at the door and they can't breathe, and they're crying, and they're done. But those women show up and continue to show up, and 6 months later they've done some step work, and they've done some breathing classes, and they've made some candles in art class, and they've made friends, and they've made connections, and they have a safe place to go. And so what I think is beautiful is throughout their life, they will always have they'll always have Sophia.
And
she will always be a friend.
Lovely volunteers that come to the center and that help us with different programs and help us with things around the house that have been previously would have been clients and have stayed connected with the center. And they are such a source of hope for the new woman that walks through the door. So it's there is just a sense that in giving back to this center, they maintain their own recovery, and they also pass on that hope and that joy to the next woman who needs it. So that's a really wonderful environment to be a part of.
And once you get into recovery, that whole hope, hearing other people's experiences, that is so massive. So when two women share that and they make that connection and you give away what you've been given, then she takes that and she pays it forward. And so that's where you really build the community. So that's really, Sophia is really part of the maintenance program of recovery.
And that's what we'd love to build here in Charlotte County too. Yeah. We just want to replicate that special, and eventually, hopefully, we have our own space where we can put that in a room and bottle it that way.
Yeah.
But that's our goal, that's our dream, that's our aspiration for Charlotte County.
All right. Well, we've come to the end of the show. What are your final words for women who are connecting with the message you're bringing today? How should they get in touch? And that would be with you, Sheila, in Charlotte County, and with you, Julie, in the rest of New Brunswick?
Yes. Again, just as Sheila mentioned before, and as I said, whatever way feels safe and comfortable for you to reach out. We want to hear from you. We can't wait to hear from you. We're happy to walk alongside you with whatever form of support feels best for you. And don't struggle alone. You don't need to. Reach out. We're here.
Yeah. You're not alone.
Thank you both for joining me today. My guests today have been Julie Atkinson, Executive Director for Sophia Recovery Centre, and Sheila Walker from the Charlotte County Outpost.
Southwest Magazine is a news and public affairs production of CHCO-TV, New Brunswick's only source for independent community television.